In the summer of 1998, I worked at Glacier National Park. I was the gardener at Many Glacier Lodge, and I say the gardener because the moment I stepped off the train, here's what the ranger said, the ranger who picked me up. He said, "I guess you're it." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because the other gardener was eaten." They found his boots with the feet still in them. Glacier National Park has the highest percentage of grizzlies in the lower 48, and I was the gardener, which mostly consisted of deadheading geraniums, mowing the lawn, and while I mowed the lawn, I looked up on the hillside and I could see 1, 3, 14 grizzlies at any given moment moving from huckleberry thicket to huckleberry thicket. My roommate was stalked for 10 miles by the same mother and her cubs that ate the other gardener. It takes a long time to hike 10 miles. Can you imagine being bluff charged the entire time? One night, I was walking back from the bar to the employee dorm when I heard a noise. And it was not an obese guy masturbating in the bushes. It was a dark shape the size of a VW bus, a grizzly that stopped beside me, sniffed me from head to foot, maybe pleasured in the stink of the urine sheeting my thigh, before continuing on into the darkness. Another time, I was camping in the backcountry when I heard that noise once again, maybe a cousin of my first visitor, coming out of the darkness, crushing the undergrowth, pushing up against the tent so that it bent inward and was inches from my face as I lay there petrified, and I could see in the lamplight the shape of a bat in the saliva that was bleeding through the tent fabric. And I was this close from popping it in the nose when it retreated and the nylon snapped back into place. So, one day, we were out for a hike. My then girlfriend, now wife, and I, and we were doing the Highline Trail, which is about 20 miles. And it was nearing dark. It takes a long time to hike those 20-some miles when we were going down these switchbacks and happened across a giant brown ass. So I threw out my arm, and Lisa said, "What?" And it was then that the animal unfurled itself. And it was a moose. Which is actually more dangerous than a grizzly bear in many cases. They, scoop you up into the basket of their antlers and stomp you to death with their pointy hooves. And the moose lifted its penile nose up and stared at us down the length of it and continued to chew. Not at all impressed. Not angry, but not going anywhere either. And it was in the middle of the trail. And the sun was setting, and there were 2 miles ahead of us and 20 miles behind us. So I waited 5 minutes, and then I did what any reasonable person would do. Chucked a rock at it. So my aim was true. It hit the side of the moose, and you could see just the rippling outward like this hairy pond. Its flesh. And it rose up and went, "Oh." And it was a switchback, so the moose thankfully went down rather than up, which is where we were. And it crashes down and then stops once more in the middle of the trail. We wait another 5 minutes and then pick up another rock, chuck it. It takes off down the trail again and stops at the very bottom of the canyon, which is where this stream is. And it has some sort of short-term memory problem because it seems to be quite calm now, slurping at some duckweed in the water. looking around, and I pick up another rock, chuck it. This time it clacks off its antler and falls in the water, and it takes off around the corner. I do feel guilty as well during all of this, abusing the poor moose. Anyways, we go down to the bottom of the canyon, and we're tiptoeing along because it dog legs over. And as we turn this corner, we see Patrick White, who I worked with at the lodge. And he is sort of scrambling backwards. His, pale wedge of a belly is hanging out. He's all disheveled. His hair's in every direction. He's covered with crumble, with rocks and dirt are falling all over him because he's trying to scramble still upwards. And he says, you won't believe what just happened. This enraged moose just came around the corner, and it pressed me up against the wall and smashed me there with its antlers, and then took off into the distance. And I said, that's weird. At least it wasn't a bear.